faced a competitive disadvantage when litigating against powerful forces. With its American Indian law and policy practice, Robbins Kaplan, LLP, seeks to redefine excellence for high-stakes litigation in Indian country. They have worked hand-in-hand with tribes to implement the Tribal Law and Order Act, fighting against diminishment of tribal lands and natural resources, and improving public safety on reservations. The Robbins Kaplan American Indian Law and Policy Practice serves tribes and individuals on commercial, government investigations, agency and tribal boundary disputes, as well as personal injury. Founded and led by former United States Attorneys Brendan Johnson and Tim Purdon, their American Indian Law and Policy Practice exists to bring justice to tribal clients whose claims in the past have been dismissed or ignored due to their underdog status. If you or your tribe are facing legal issues, contact robinskaplan.com or call toll-free at 1-800-553-9910.
It's not the younger people who are getting sick, and that's what people are so hesitant about getting the vaccine, because they think to themselves, oh, I'm not really going to die. However, right now, they are the ones who are transmitting the virus to other people. And we need to make sure we're vaccinating as many people as possible.
This message was brought to you by McGizzy Communications and Minnesota Department of Health.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Wind chill advisory in effect tonight as we expect clear skies and a low of 18 below. Wednesday partly cloudy with a high near 21, and Thursday sunny with a high around 26. Nightingale off 26th and Lindale has dining room and bar seating available. Menu favorites include the famous Nightingale burger and fries, ginger tamari chicken wings, smoked chicken liver plate, and more. Plus, they still do takeout and delivery. Open daily 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. with a full menu till midnight. More at nightingalemtls.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I am your host, Robert Pilot. As you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Alliance Energy, powering beyond.
Awesome. Wendy, you sound great. Wendy's all the way. We got the string and the can. Really, she's all the way in New York, so the string's tight, and that sounded really good with your new headset.
Awesome.
Right on. We speak, we talk Native issues and events here on Native Roots Radio, and one thing we do, we start out with the news, and you hear news you don't hear anywhere else, and we have a Nancy Beaulieu on tonight, and also a special guest, Jeffrey Broberg, and he's got some insight on what's happening up in the deep north. So we're really excited, and without any further ado, and I love that French word, ado, and mosey lawn too. That means cut the grass in French. Let's go with Ogama with the news. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Ogama.
Hi, Anim Boujou, Robert Mundy. It's good to be here on this Tuesday. I'm happy we have Nancy. I'm really excited we have Jeffrey Broberg joining us today. He's going to be talking a little bit about that aquifer breach that happened in Clearwater, Minnesota, that we've been talking about here on Native Roots Radio for a long time, since it was open for almost a year before Enbridge claimed they fixed it. But we'll let Jeffrey get into that a little bit more later. Diane just posted that she's wondering what happens to the water protectors that were arrested and hope they're not charged for protesting against Line 5. I actually do have a little bit of an update on that. The U.S. Attorney General has actually dropped charges against Indigenous water protectors and allies who occupied the Bureau of Indian Affairs earlier this year. So earlier this year, water protectors descended upon Washington, D.C., and held space and occupied the Bureau of Indian Affairs office, demanding Indigenous rights be upheld. A lot of those water protectors were arrested. I know that we had Gina Peltier on our show, and she was actually tased as part of her arrest at the BIA office. But what's happened now is that the United States Attorney General's office has decided not to charge the 33 Indigenous water protectors and their allies who were arrested in their peaceful occupation of the Bureau of Indian Affairs on October 14th of 2021. This was the first time since 1972's Trail of Broken Treaties that Indigenous people and leaders had occupied the BIA, or Bureau of Indian Affairs. The Indigenous leaders were met with extreme violence. The police left one Indigenous woman with a broken hand. Others were hit with batons, and 2 people were tased, as well as an Indigenous media reporter was assaulted with an officer kneeling on his neck and had his equipment damaged. They demanded, when they occupied the building, the water protectors demanded the abolition of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the U.S. government honored the treaties, including the restoration of 110 million acres of land taken away from Native nations. Indigenous children buried at residential schools be returned to their tribal nations. No new leases for oil and gas or extractive industry on public lands, and the U.S. government to establish a policy of free, prior, and informed consent restoration of terminated rights. So that's very exciting that water protectors at the national level had charges dropped. However, in Minnesota, there are still almost or just over 1,000 water protectors who are facing charges in Minnesota related to their actions attempting to stop Line 3. You're going to want to go to dropline3charges.com. That's with the number 3, and make sure that you sign the petition to ask the Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and Governor Walz to drop the charges. And if you're in Wisconsin, you definitely want to get in touch with your local representatives to protect your right to the freedom of speech, because there are some pushes happening in Wisconsin right now in the legislature regarding that they are attempting to push through some legislation similar to what they did here in Minnesota, basically making it illegal for you to voice your right to free speech in your own state and or country. So that's something that happened and is still, I think, pending here in Minnesota, and something that Enbridge and other foreign corporations are definitely pushing over in Wisconsin as well. The other awesome thing that we have on today is we're going to have a little bit of a feature from Kalliah and Blackwater. Kalliah and Blackwater is a Native American musician group out of the Twin Cities, Minnesota, and they came together to create positive change. It's got members Kalliah Jackson, Corey Ray White, and others. And what they are doing is singing a lot of songs about MMIW and connection to trauma as Native people. And their music is just really great. And they are a part of the Native American Music Awards this year. So if you have not yet, make sure you go over to NativeAmericanMusicAwards.com or NAMA Live, NAMA Live.com, and vote for Kalliah and Blackwater for their newest single, I Will Fight, for the single of the year, or if you'd like, you can sample the other amazing nominees by category and by There's so many here, Robert. I wish I could I could talk about all of them. But seriously, if you haven't heard about this, the Native American Music Awards, it is really, really cool. And there's a lot of really wonderful Native American artists in all different types of categories that could use your support. So make sure you go take some time to vote. And then the other thing that you want to do before January 31st is you want to go over to and take the Indigenous Futures Survey. So that is another amazing thing that you can do to make your voice heard as an Indigenous person. So you want to go over to indigenousfutures.org. It takes, I don't know, Robert and Wendy, did you guys take it yet? I think it took me about 10 minutes to do mine.
No, but people have been talking about it, so we got to get all the male natives out there to really take it, because that was one of the things that the demographic that they were lacking. So really great to bring that up. Hey, Ogama, do you mind if I start the music now? We got like 2 minutes and we can just play a little bit excerpt. We normally don't play music on here. We're not a music show, but was really excited to hear this song when she sent it to us. And she's a great friend of ours. And of course, she was at Standing Rock, and it's just, she's been around for a long time. And just let's rock out to that for the last minute. Is that okay?
Absolutely. That sounds wonderful. Excited for this.
Well, cool. I want to just say you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be back with our spotlight guest, Jeffrey Broberg. We'll be right back.
New day, new time. Here we go again down the other side. Generation give up, never mind. Rather not succeed than hurt your pride. Every day is a constant struggle to survive, to break through old stereotypes, dead ends and trials. But I'm still here, I'm still alive. To minority, traveling alone through adversity, powerful beyond measure, but blinded by the world that makes us see a lot of faults that you can call by name. The finger that points is the hand to blame. It's all unending trials, but I'm still here.
We'll be right back.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Don't let COVID spoil winter fun for your family. Get a vaccine or booster. COVID-19 vaccines are safe, effective, free for everyone, and are now available for anyone over the age of 5. Booster shots are also recommended for everyone 12 and older if it's been more than 5 months since your previous vaccination. To get more tips, schedule your vaccine, or get tested, visit ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine. That's ramseycounty.us/COVID vaccine.
January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and American Indian women in Minnesota are twice as likely to develop cervical cancer. Native Roots Radio is partnering with Minnesota's SAGE Breast and Cervical Cancer Program to talk about cervical cancer. It's a special broadcast live Sunday, January 30th at 6 p.m. on AM 950. Guests will include public health experts within the American Indian community who will share important information about cervical cancer in our Native communities. Listen live on Sunday at 6 p.m. or on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Welcome back, everybody. I always chuckle when I hear that. And our bumpers are always funny. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, we're excited, and it's always fun to get. First of all, it's always fun to hear that somebody listens to our show, right, Wendy? And we got Jeffrey reached out to us via the Pony Express email over the interweb, and we needed a guest today, so we thought we'd get Jeff on. No, I'm just kidding. But Jeff's a Minnesota licensed professional geologist, and he's been listening to our show, but he's also a longtime water protector advocate, and he's working on Line 3 violations. And we're going to hear from an expert, and I think that's what we need to do, is hear from experts. And I mean, I have my opinion about clean water and clean air, but here's an expert. And Jeff, we're really excited to have you on. And before I talk through your whole segment, I want to introduce you, and I want you to come on to Native Roots Radio and speak your truth. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Wendy and Robert, for having me today, and Ogama for spreading the wire and bringing me the can that makes me link into you.
Exactly.
I'm calling in today from my farm in Winona County on Dakota land, and I can't hardly live farther away from Kalliah and still be in the same state of Minnesota. But I'm a geologist and came into this Line 3 fight kind of late, but I've been watching this issue for quite some time, and just a little bit of background and history. I retired from corporate life in 2017. I went back to school and I was studying philanthropy. How could I make an organization that would help people with water? And I was looking around for people who had a cultural or spiritual sense of water at the time of Standing Rock. And I was so impressed that the water protectors were really the only people I could find in the United States that were talking about culture and spirituality of water. That's something that's missing in my culture. Water is a commodity. It's something to be used to get rid of. It has a whole history of engineering and everything, and that is really making us less sustainable. So I was really looking to meet and know some people who were engaged in this. And my organization is the Minnesota Well Owners Organization. And we're putting on water testing clinics, free water testing clinics. We want to make sure that everybody has clean, safe water at their kitchen sink. And we put on a series of water testing clinics up on the White Earth Reservation last summer, the end of the summer. And I met some great people up there, and we had over 100 people turn out and have their water tested, and we're working with toxic taters and PAM and trying to provide some treatment systems to people that had bad water, and really made some great relationships while I was up there doing those water tests for 3 weeks. I really had the benefit of a meeting and talking with Mike Swan for almost 3 hours one day. And he shared with me a lot of the culture that I wasn't aware of, the history of the Ojibwa and how everything is related to water. And it's very close to how I feel. But I'm trained as a scientist. I'm trained to compartmentalize things and study them and then put them off to the side. And that's really not the right way to think about our water. So I'm really enamored and happy to meet people that have that approach. So I didn't really get involved in the early permitting. I was working on another case up in your area, the toxic taters and the Nolte Farm irrigation problem. I was an appellant with our organization in that case, dealing with all the chemicals and the water use for R.D. Offutt. So I didn't have time to work on the permitting. But after our water clinic, one of the friends we met up there, Renee Kieser, sent me the restoration order from the DNR on a Friday afternoon. She said, "Jeff, have you seen this paper? This is the end of September. It's 110 pages long." And I dug right into it, and I was shocked because I recognized the hazard that Enbridge had created through their deeper excavation. I've had professional experience with things like aquifer ruptures, and they are one of the most difficult things to fix. And if you just think about what the issue is, the Earth has all kinds of attributes ranging from temperature, pressure, flow, and it's all a factor of how they were formed through the glacial ages and how it's equilibrated over time. And it's set in an environment that is dependent on the water, whether it's from groundwater flow or precipitation. And what I saw was that they had broken through the seal in the earth that held back artesian pressure that was extreme. If you had put that pressure in the pipe, the reports show the water would have spouted out 9 feet above the surface. As soon as it occurred, it was a hazard. That backhoe operator, it had to scare the bejesus out of them because it turned the site into quicksand. Wow. I've had the unfortunate experience of losing a bulldozer years ago when I was a superintendent on a construction crew working on landfill cleanups. And my bulldozer dug into a spring in a landfill and it sunk out of sight. So I was familiar with the hazard, and I'm familiar with how hard it is to deal with controlling the water. It's a fierce power that is under pressure from maybe many miles around. And it was breaching an aquifer that nearby people use as their drinking water. Yeah. Well, this occurred January 21st, a year ago, and what I found in reviewing the records was that it was covered up, that the independent environmental monitors reported on their daily reports that they were having dewatering difficulty. They minimized this as if it were just a trivial matter that they were going to get over. And yet we know from the effort they've gone through that they had to motivate a change in their construction plans, a change in processes till they had to go back in and dewater the aquifer down to an 18-foot level. So it really 27 feet, they had to lower the water table so that they could do their directional boring underneath the existing pipes that they knew existed beforehand, but didn't acknowledge.
We're talking about Enbridge Line 3 up in the deep north. I just want to remind everyone that's listening. Go ahead.
Right outside of the Coldbrook Terminal in Coldbrook, Minnesota, a town that's named for the springs that come out throughout this entire area. And they formed a new spring that was flowing at an enormous rate. We don't have a reliable number, but it's somewhere between 100,000 and 2.4 million gallons of water a day that was bleeding out of the earth. And what we found is they didn't disclose this to the DNR until after they put their pipe in, after some of the DNR people had inquired about erosion control because it formed a new stream, a new river coming out of this that was eroding away. And they finally revealed it to the DNR in June, 5.5 months after it happened. what we learned was they were totally focused on efficiency in putting in their pipe. They didn't give a darn about our water. God. They thought it was a problem. It was a problem, but not for the reasons they thought. Since this time, I've had some really important conversations with some of your friends. Dale Green taught me that he asked me a really important question. He said, Jeff, do you like the sound of water? And I do. I'm an avid fisherman. If I don't talk about geology, I like to talk about fishing. Sound of waves or the stream. And he said, Jeff, to us, that's the sound of prayers and songs.
Oh.
And now you've told me that I have to go to the pipeline to hear those.
Wow. Hey, do you have a minute? We got, we're pulling out to another segment here. And I'm wondering if you can hang on for a little bit and just go over that again. That was amazing. We're here with Jeffrey Broberg, who's a Minnesota licensed professional geologist, and he's talking about what's happening up in the deep north, what happened over a year ago with our aquifer, and that Enbridge doesn't really care about our water. And we know that, we talk about it, but here's an expert talking about it right now. We'll be right back, Wendy, right after this short break.
Stay with us.
Yeah.
It's a constant struggle to survive, to break through old stereotypes, dead ends and trials, but I'm still here, I'm still alive. I will not break, I will not cry, will not give in, I will always fight. I will not break, I will not cry, will not give in, I will always fight. Dominant to minority, traveling alone through.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Navigating COVID while protecting yourself can be difficult. Fortunately, there's a hotline you can call with any questions. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on vaccines, booster shots, and testing sites. Right now, booster shots are available to anyone over the age of 18 for those who are eligible. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline can also help with housing, food, medical, and educational support. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19, vaccinations, booster shots, or testing, please call 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Aho, relatives. My name is George McCauley, Omaha Nation. I'm a citizen of the Omaha Nation in Nebraska. As we head into wintertime, many of us will be back together indoors. It's important to make sure you receive your COVID booster shot. Older Americans are more at risk for complications for COVID-19. All 3 COVID vaccine boosters have been approved. Find a vaccine site by calling 651-304-9986 or go to vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
Smart radio for smart people. That's the Tom Hartman program. Listen to me, Tom Hartman, from 11 a.m. to 2 right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Here's pet trendologist Charlotte Reed and Dr. Michael Fleck with what's coming up this weekend on the Pet Buzz.
So next week, we're going to talk about bees and butterflies and how they contribute to the ecosystem.
Oh, wow. That will be interesting.
I think so. I think it'll be really great.
Enhancing the bond between pets and their people. We're the Pet Buzz.
Listen to the Pet Buzz radio show every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
We use technology every day to help manage our lives. Why not use it to help manage your medications? St. Paul Corner Drug offers several free tools to keep you on track while taking your medications. Use our mobile app to quickly order a refill, or the Meds on Q application, which turns your smartphone or tablet into your very own personal medication attendant. Email and text messaging options let you know when your medication is ready for pickup, making efficient use of your time. St. Paul Corner Drug, pharmacy the way it should be.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Wind chill advisory in effect tonight as we expect clear skies and a low of 18 below. Wednesday, partly cloudy with a high near 21, and Thursday, sunny with a high around 26. Snap Construction can do more than just exterior home projects. They can help with insulation, too. Replacing your home's insulation will keep your home more comfortable, and it's one of the least expensive home upgrades you can do. Call now for your free energy audit from Snap Construction, 612-333-SNAP, or snapconstruction.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. And I'm your groovy host. We have Nancy waiting in the bullpen here on the line, but I know people are really interested. And maybe what we'll do is in a few minutes, we'll bring Nancy on too to talk to Jeff. And we're with Jeffrey Broberg, who's a Minnesota licensed professional geologist. And Wendy, I know we're always chatting back and forth together. You have a really cool question for Jeff. Do you wanna ask that?
Well, I wanted to ask the question because Ogama talks about it all the time and how Enbridge kind of fixed the problem with the aquifer by using concrete. What is your opinion about that?
They made a surprise announcement to us just last week that they had fixed the aquifer just 3 days before the 1-year anniversary. We were really glad if that's true. It goes in the category amazing if true, in my opinion. But it needs to be proven that it's a durable fix. So they are required to inspect the site every day for a month to make sure there's no other leaks. They're required to look at it every month for a year before that's done. And I'm really going to withhold an opinion. This is, again, a lot of pressure. And now it's time for accountability about this. We were promised by the governor and all of the agencies that if there were problems, there would be accountability. And instead, what we've seen is a whole history of misrepresenting the risk, creating violations of their permits, and not taking responsibility. So now we really want to focus on how we can hold them accountable and assure that this doesn't happen anywhere else. We're told there may be 2 other aquifer breaches. The DNR won't tell us where. We're doing some amazing work with the tribes. The Treaty Authority and White Earth has acquired new infrared imaging across the whole line that will be able to detect these aquifer breaches. And there's so much information out there. The work of Ron Tierney and the people that have been doing the videos, Alexander and people doing the drone videos and the water protectors that have been observing this. There are 2 or 3 dozen sites that we have concern over. And we want to take a close look at those now and see, are those problems left behind? So it's not just the aquifer breach. These frac outs are another issue that was hidden from public view. The frac outs mean that from the pipe, whatever depth the pipe was at, that mud has leaked up all the way to the surface. So it's left millions of gallons, perhaps, of mud behind in our aquifers. And nobody's accounting for that. As a well owners organization, that's a big concern to us. If they puked mud into our drinking water, we think that's a possibility, and we're not getting them to take account for that yet either. So there's a lot of work to do, even though there's oil running through line 3. We're asking the agencies to stop the flow until they fix all these problems. That would be the only thing we think that would motivate Enbridge.
What is your feeling on the local people up there? And I know, we all have been colonized. We talk about this on our show all the time. I mean, you're a white ally, but you also way back were colonized by the king and the queen, and we were all close to Mother Earth and Father Sky, and water is life. What are you feeling from other white people up in the deep north, and how are they feeling about it now when they hear about their clean water, their aquifer has been messed with?
It's something that we're really trying to bring to fore in our water clinics. When people test their water, if it's good water, we want them to be grateful for that and to think about what that means to them. People like to talk about their water. So I think people are coming over to this, but geez, Robert, we have such a economy-driven abuse of water that's allowed that it gets discouraging sometimes. But it really feels good to be working with people who are so focused and so heartfelt in their attitude about protecting the water, so that we have hope for the future. And Minnesota is one of the only places maybe left that can do that. I have a friend, a professor that was studying aquatic insects in Nebraska. He left there because the streams were dry now because of irrigation. It's not coming back in Nebraska. They've got corn. That's it. Look what we have for our resources here, and how grateful we should be for that, and how important it is to continue to work to protect these resources from a range of abuses. And it's pipelines, and it's irrigation for potato culture, and it's mining, and it's a whole host of things. And we can't let these big companies roll over our agencies and hoodwink them into feeling these are low-risk activities.
Right. Hey, we're with Jeffrey Broberg, who's a Minnesota licensed professional geologist, and I want to bring Nancy Beaulieu on too, and she's with Bemidji 350, and I want to see if Nancy has any questions for you, Jeffrey, because I know she lives up there too, and sees this. Welcome, Nancy.
Well, thanks again for having me. And again, I'm from Leech Lake, and I'm the Northern Organizer for Minnesota 350. And everything he said is all the key points of why these agencies should be held accountable, and looking forward to what those relationships are. And bottom line, it's nothing but collusion, and not only threatens our water but our treaties. But he talked about this getting the water tested, and how in northern Minnesota do you guys reach out and share the story of this is what Enbridge has done? Because there has been many natives. We held the easement for 8 days. We try to tell the world this is what they've done, but it seems like here in this area, in Bemidji, Beltrami County, near Poseida and Elida, that a lot of people are still naive to the damage and the unaccountability, and that Enbridge has more rights than we. How do you guys go out and educate, and how are you willing to hold spaces with us to help amplify that local concern? Because this is the headwaters. This is really critical to the $18 billion in tourism that Minnesota depends on, and we should be putting Minnesotans first. So how can you help us to do some good work moving forward?
Well, it's a daunting task, and I'm most hopeful about working with Frank Below and the tribes on the Monoman lawsuit. Mm-hmm. I think that this is one of the biggest movements that could really bring into people's sensibility of the connectedness of everything. And the Monoman as part of your culture and being fed by water links all of this together. And I think that kind of thing, people have been talking about the rights of rivers and the rights of native plants forever, but they've never found the vehicle to move this forward. So in one regard, this might be one of the critical ways that comes forward. So I'm very hopeful of that. But continuing to get the word out about this, our water testing, we're doing more private water testing at the Indigenous Agriculture Conference in March coming up. So we'll be up in your area helping toxic taters do more water testing and just having those conversations with people. We've been amazed how often people testing their water say, "You're not with the government, are you?" They don't want to have water quality shared with government agencies. We say, no, we're a nonprofit. We only care about your water. Right. And that makes them open up and really start talking to us about how much they appreciate it. And it's really a meaningful conversation that we need to use the water protectors as examples of how this can be done and how a culture can embrace the importance of water.
Right.
Jeffrey, I want to say, Peeny Gigi, thank you for reaching out to us, and we're going to stop. We're going to have you come on again and talk more. And we just, it's always great. We had a pipe person come on and talk about them digging the pipes, and so it's great to hear all these other angles at this, other than just our heartfelt, we want to protect the water. So again, Peeny Gigi for being on, and we're going to be in touch with you and talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
I'd be happy to come back. Thank you, and great work, you guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thanks for being. We'll send you a T-shirt too. Thanks for being a big fan too. No, all right. Well, wow, that was great, Nancy. A great way to segue into your segments. Just there's somebody that just does this for a living and used to do this. He's a retired Minnesota licensed professional geologist and is checking on our water and giving us the real deal.
That's actually one of the best ways to show up. And it's a good way to start the conversation. So I think that's really going to be key to building awareness with the people that believe that Enbridge is here in a good way. And they do that with their misconceptions and buying out communities by upgrading our fire equipment, getting a park bench. And, they're poisoning our communities in reality. And a lot of people don't want to see that because it is all about economics. But we have to really think about our own livelihoods here in Minnesota, and our tourism is worth $18 billion. And we got to also think about the Native people and their way, and that's what's going to save us. Like you mentioned, kind of, the way he was talking is that we know the way, but people aren't listening. And it basically is, we have to realign ourselves with natural law to make that happen. And the only way we're going to make that happen, Robert, is to get engaged. And next Tuesday is an important day for that. And it's precinct caucuses. And so I encourage people to, show up with resolutions that will help protect the climate and the water and democracy. And we can do that in a good way. And that is the goal here, Robert, moving forward too, is bringing ourselves to the table, because we know neither party ever worked for us. And then if we're not able, we will be what's being served. And treaties are nonpartisan. I'm going to keep telling people this over and over, nonpartisan. And because we are all treaty people, we have to continue to protect the sacred our way and the future with our treaties. And what does that look like moving forward? And that has to be a part of our caucus, our precinct caucus. So,
hey, Nan, can you hold on for a quick segment, another segment?
Sure.
Native Roots Radio will be right back after this short break.
Stay with us.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Aho, relatives. My name is George McCauley, Umaha Nashinga. I'm a citizen of the Omaha Nation in Nebraska, but reside in the Twin Cities area. As we head into wintertime, many of us will be back together indoors. It's important to make sure you receive your COVID booster shot. Those 65 and over are recommended to receive their booster dose. Older Americans are more at risk for complications for COVID-19. So get your booster shot to make sure you stay safe and healthy this winter. All 3 COVID vaccine boosters have been approved. Find a vaccine site by calling 651-304-9986 or go to this website, vaccineconnector.mn.gov. 651-304-9986 or go to vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and American Indian women in Minnesota are twice as likely to develop cervical cancer. Native Roots Radio is partnering with Minnesota's SAGE Breast and Cervical Cancer Program to talk about cervical cancer. It's a special broadcast live Sunday, January 30th at 6 p.m. on AM 950. Guests will include public health experts within the American Indian community who will share important information about cervical cancer in our Native communities. Listen live on Sunday at 6 p.m. or on Native Roots Radio's Facebook page.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. Howl!
We didn't hear Nancy howl.
Oh, I didn't know I was cute to do that. But next time, Robert, next time.
Well, we can do it over. I think Ogama was going to the bathroom or something too. I don't know. Hey, let's move on. Nancy, thank you for coming on. You're with Bemidji 350, MN 350, and you know, it's so funny too. I say this to you all the time, but I think when you're on, people message us on Facebook and YouTube more than any other guest we have, and then give big shout outs. So I'm glad you're on, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you do what you do.
Oh, you know, me too, Robert, and I got to give that love right back. And they don't even know when I wake up, I'm exhausted from the day before, from all the meetings and how are we going to hold space? How do we create that space? I'm exhausted, but it's just the love and the great allies and relatives stepping up to make this good work happen. And, you know, I mentioned before the break, you know, about caucuses coming up and why that's important, why I want to really emphasize why it's important that we do show up is we see projects like Line 3, how the governor, you know, came out and said, hey, vote for me. And we have a lieutenant governor who has done such great work, but what good is anything else without clean water? And she's been so silent on this matter. So they came out into Indian country, got our votes, and then that's all they were, Robert, was votes, and our voices continue to fall on deaf ears. We see this with every campaign looking back into history, but we as the people, because we are sovereign, we have self-determination, we have treaty, we have to figure out what's not working and what's going to work better. And I think part of that is teaching our people how to show up and be a part of what the candidates, what they're going to look like, and not look like, but what they represent. And so this is my job, is to help create some of those spaces. And we're going to do Rock the Vote Native style again, looking for midterms 2022. And I know a lot of people don't even know what a caucus is. So I want to tell them, Robert. Okay.
Right on. Right on.
A caucus is a political party gathering in which party members choose candidates for an election. So if their platform doesn't align with our values, we're not going to vote for them as delegates, and they will not make the ballot. So any political group or meeting it's any political group. It can be grassroots, Robert. It could be any political group, that our meeting organized to further the special interests or the causes that we align with. So that's how we get to show up and have climate resolutions, treaty resolutions, and our work at the Minnesota DFL. Joey Peltier put some our resolutions together, and they're available on our website. So if you're in Minnesota, you can go there, download those on Tuesday next week, and present them in your local precinct caucuses. That's our voice, Robert, and that's how we can engage on a local note. And at the DFL, for the Native Peoples Caucus, Joey and I will be working tomorrow to actually bring a video together to further explain what we want people to know before they show up next Tuesday.
Awesome. That's awesome. So, Nancy, I know you always double book because you have important things going on, and I don't know if you can stay on a little longer if you need to get going with your other activities and meetings, but we really appreciate you being on. It's always a highlight to Native Roots Radio. So, do you need to get going? We'd understand.
I do. We're actually in the meeting right now, but there's a lot of good people in the meeting that it just goes on without me, and I can trust them to hold good space like that. So yeah, there's a couple of those people in that meeting probably watching this show and during the meeting too. So kudos to those guys.
Yeah, it's that time of not time of year, but it's become a reality over the years, the last couple of years with the pandemic, that you can do 2 meetings at once, especially if only one of them you have to vote.
Right. So I think we will be okay for some more, Robert. I'll be
All right,
here.
cool. Well, there's a lot of work, and I think, it's interesting. We had Sheila Lamb's husband on a long time ago talking about what these pipers do, these pipe fitters. He's a former pipe person putting in pipelines, and him and Sheila were at Standing Rock for a very long time, like yourself, and just telling us the lack of care that goes into it and what they do. And they talk about jobs. They talked about jobs here in Minnesota, and they gave out jobs with no health care that are holding signs for as independent contractors, and all the people that were working on these pipelines and bringing their man camps were 5,000 people from other states, Nancy.
Right, and it's crazy. When the pipeline was being installed, you can go into town here, and every hotel and motel was jam packed with out of state license plate. And the local restaurants are like, "Great, this is great for business." And that was one of the misconceptions, was it was going to be a little boom for Minnesota. And you know what? Clean water is $18 billion year after year after year. Our way of life is priceless. And so when we think about what little bit money they spent here, it is nothing about putting Minnesotans first, or honoring our treaties and our native nations here in Minnesota or across Turtle Island. When you look at Beltrami County, there's 3 tribal nations that surround Beltrami County, and they wouldn't even have economic prosperity without our almighty dollar. And Robert, it's really sickening that the only thing they want from us is that money. And you know what? We're going to violate you by putting these pipelines in without your permission, that free, prior, informed consent. That is breaking the law. But here we are in the middle of a county that could care less about us, and a governor that doesn't want anything to do with us. He took our vote and he ran. And now we have another threat other than, Line 3, and it brings more man camps. They're going to... the threat is always going to be there, and they don't care about our community and our safety. And when we think about how are we going to show up in the future to prevent this, because like I've been saying for a long time, this is more than a pipeline. Because
right.
You know what, we're getting tired, and we can't keep fighting every mining project, every company like this new one coming in Cohasset. We can't fight Line 3. We're tired. I want to go picking berries and I go setting snares, but I'm in meeting after meeting trying to defend that very same thing for other people. And so it's getting exhausting. And what we have to do is start showing up. We have to get treaty awareness, education. We have to come together as a community, and we have to heal those that need healing or redirection to come back, because we have to build on that resiliency at the same time.
Right.
And that's how we do it. We have to engage, and we have to show up, and we have to learn to play their game. And you know what? We are, and we're going to play it a lot better than they are.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to say, Peeny Gigi, thank you for coming on, Nancy, and spending time with us and speaking your truth. I also just want to remind you before we go is that, you know, these workers were staying in homeless shelters too, so they didn't have to pay for their hotels out of their pocket. So there's so many things, that bad medicine that was brought because of these pipelines. But I want to just say thank you, Peeny Gigi, so much for being on the show.
All right, and thanks for having me. And I probably got a little sidetracked there, but yeah, there's just so much bad about this, and that's why we're going to do better than all that, and we're going to rise, and we're going to protect all that is sacred and defend those treaties.
Thank you so much for being on. We'll talk to you soon. Nancy Beaulieu, Bemidji 350. I'm going to leave us out here. I feel like a DJ now, Wendy. I'm like rocking it out. But
I love the music.
Yeah. This one is a really good song. Maybe we'll steal it for a bumper. But hey, I just want to say this. We got like 30 seconds before we go, Wendy. I say we're still here. We are the 7th generation. You've been listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Stop line 3. Free Leonard Peltier. Please get vaccinated and boosted.
To break through old stereotypes, dead ends and trials, but I'm still here, I'm still alive.
Tune in for Philosophy Talk, the program that questions everything except your intelligence.